The Matthew Stafford trade rumors are starting to pick up a little bit, so I figured it was time to talk about whether or not the Browns should pursue Stafford. But really quickly, we crossed 41,000 subscribers overnight, so thank you to everyone who recently subscribed, who's been a subscriber for a long time. It's an awesome, not just big milestone, but we're making our way towards the big 5-0. So go ahead and click that subscribe button down below if you have not already. Let's talk about Stafford potentially coming to Cleveland because we are definitely at the point where any quarterback that could be available, we should at least discuss because the Browns are starting from scratch when it comes to their quarterback room. Deshaun Watson obviously not going to be a part of it in 2025 coming off the Achilles injury, and I don't think DTR is going to be either. So let's not leave any stone unturned. The reason why the Stafford trade rumors are really starting to pick up a little bit is because the Giants have been somewhat rumored to be interested in Stafford. And they recently hired his brother-in-law to be their quarterback coach, despite said brother-in-law never being a quarterback or a quarterback coach before. So some people think, they may be trying to do this to lure him. I don't know how close Stafford and his brother-in-law are, and I don't think I would take a job across the country just for my brother-in-law. I like you, Joe, but that seems like a bit of a stretch. So here's what Diana Rossini had to say. As for Stafford, the Rams front office has refused to commit to him publicly as their starter in 2025, but the 37-year-old can still rip it. Stafford is like one of the toughest quarterbacks to debate amongst your friends in terms of what tier he is in. I've always been a pro Stafford guy, like he was doing really well despite playing for the Detroit Lions and the limitations that come with that, and that clearly showed when he got to LA. But the last couple of years, he has, I wouldn't say dipped, but the injuries seem to be creeping up on him. 2022, the year after they win the Super Bowl, he plays about half of the season. But then he has a good bounce back year in 2023 when a lot of people thought maybe those elbow injuries are really going to catch up to him as he gets older. And then this past year, 2024, he plays pretty much every single game, minus the last game of the season when they rested their starters. Those 20 touchdowns to 8 interceptions, while Puka Nacua missed about a third of the year, and Cooper Kupp missed a good chunk of the year as well. When it comes to the money side, because this is an important part of the equation, any team that trades for Matthew Stafford would be taking on $27 million in cap hits. Whenever you trade for a player, you're not trading for the cap hit on the current team they're with. You are trading for their base salary and any unpaid roster bonuses, which usually kick in after the start of the new league year. So a team would make a trade before those bonuses kick in, so they don't give a guy $5 million and then just trade him away 2 days later. So that is roughly what it would cost, and the Browns have never shown a fear when it comes to the salary cap getting in the way of what they want to do. I also wonder if this could be a Hail Mary attempt. If the Browns truly heavily pursued Stafford, maybe that's something they could present to Myles Garrett of, we just got Matthew Stafford at quarterback. Is this a team that you're ready to roll with? It's kind of like in the movie Draft Day when the coach wants to quit halfway through the draft and then all of a sudden Kevin Costner has a brand new approach and he's like, is this a team you can work with right now? He's like, yeah, okay, I'm back in. I wonder if that could happen if they were to go out and acquire Stafford, and if maybe the possibility of acquiring Stafford makes them a little bit more desperate. So this is a trade idea I came up with, and I'm not in love with it, but it's just a starting point. And it's the Rams get the Browns' second-round pick. I don't think Stafford is worth the 33rd overall pick with his contract and his age, but he also was just a few plays away from going to the NFC Championship game. So he clearly still has some really good football left in the tank. Maybe it's like the Elijah Moore trade where the Rams get a second and the Browns get Stafford and a third. Something like that as well. But I'll toss the mic over to you. Would you do this trade? You still hold on to the second overall pick. You're not parting ways with the first rounder for Stafford at this point in his career given his age in my eyes. I mean, Aaron Rodgers did go kind of for a first, but it was a first-round pick swap. And then I think a future second, or maybe it was a future first. But regardless, I don't think Stafford's at that level. So I don't think he will be traded, which is why I haven't really spent a lot of time on him as a target for the Browns, because while I don't think we should leave any stone unturned, I don't think we should devote a ton of our time to someone who's just not going to end up in Cleveland. So my gut tells me he stays put in LA. They move on from Cooper Kupp, but they are still a very competitive team in the NFC. And I don't envision them feeling like, hey, you know what we should do after going toe-to-toe with the Super Bowl champs? Let's tear it all down. That doesn't strike me as a good idea. And the Rams are an organization filled with good ideas. They have put together a really competitive roster despite not having a plethora of first and second round draft picks over the last few seasons. So they've got some good minds in Southern California running this organization. This seems like a bad idea. If it was the Jets, all right, it probably happens. I don't think the Rams are going to do it. So for that reason, I'm not going Shark Tank mode and saying I'm out. I just don't think it has much of a chance. But if the Rams truly do want to trade Stafford, my thoughts on this is, as fun as it might be, you're more than a quarterback away when you finish a year 13. I said 13 and 13. I'm thinking of the olden days. 13 and 14. It's even worse than 13 and 13. When you're 13 and 14, I don't think inserting Stafford into the lineup is going to be the thing that all of a sudden puts you back in a playoff winning scenario. And I do like Stafford as a quarterback, don't get me wrong, but you had no run game. The offensive line is aging and declining. The defense went from being number one in the NFL to middle of the pack, kind of at best on a good day. There are some not bigger issues, but other issues. And putting Stafford for what you have to give up to get him in the contract, I think you just go from being 3 and 14 to maybe being like 8 and 9. Is 8 and 9 worth the 33rd overall draft pick and the salary cap space? I would say no to that. Before we get on to the rest of today's episode, it is brought to you by our friends over at Mando. Mando is a whole body deodorant safe to use anywhere on your body. I walk to work most days. It's about a 30-ish minute walk, and in the heat, it can cause me to work up quite a sweat, but even in the winter, you got all those layers on, and you can take your jacket off and feel like, wow, I did just kind of hike up Mount Everest. But when I use Mando, I come into the office pit stain free and not smelling horrible. It was created by a doctor who saw firsthand how normal BO was being misdiagnosed and mistreated. It is clinically proven to block odor all day and control odor for up to 72 hours. They're also offering new customers $5 off a starter pack at shopmando.com with promo code CHAT. Mando's starter pack is perfect for new customers. It comes with a solid stick deodorant, cream tube deodorant, 2 free products of your choice like mini body wash and deodorant wipes. Luckily, I've got a discount code to get you guys hooked up on my favorite smelling whole body deodorant on the market. New customers can get $5 off, which equates to over 40% off when you go to shopmando.com and use promo code CHAT. That's shopmando.com. Use promo code CHAT to get $5 off. All that information is in the comments and description of today's video. Switching gears, but staying on somewhat of the same vein, just trade rumors in general, I've got a little bit more intel on what's going on with Myles Garrett after his Radio Row tour, when he publicly expressed multiple times he wants to be traded, leaving no doubt about the motive. It is not financially related whatsoever. He simply does not believe the Browns will be contenders soon, and he wants to go to a contender. And that seems like a tough thing to change someone's mind on. And when he said that he consulted with LeBron James, I don't think he called LeBron to go like, what's going on with the Lakers, dude? I think he probably called LeBron and said, any tips for a good way to exit Cleveland and not be hated? That's how I think the phone call likely went. But more from Diana Rossini, who said, after Sunday, when Philadelphia confirmed Patrick Mahomes' kryptonite is a strong defensive line, the Bills should be on the phone. Don't forget Buffalo traded with these Browns for a receiver, Amari Cooper, a few months ago. When I read this, my first thought is, I didn't know Diana Rossini watched the show, because on yesterday's episode, this is literally what I said verbatim. The Bills should be blowing up Andrew Berry's phone. So, Diana, welcome to the channel. We're very happy to have you here with us. But yes, I think the Bills are going to look at Myles Garrett as an even more important asset for them to try to acquire after learning the secret to taking down Mahomes. Rush four. Got to have four good guys to rush, though. Drop 7 in coverage, and you could win by 3 scores. Now, the Athletic also. Oh, magic trick. Hit spacebar again. One more time. There we go. Sorry about that, everyone. We got the new guy with us today, but he's doing a great job. So, Myles Garrett destinations. The Athletic included 4 teams that could have some interest in MG. I put their draft pick in round 1 with them, so you have a rough idea of what you'd be getting in return. Both LA teams, which I could see, like the Chargers. If you're the Chargers, you might look at this as a good offseason to be aggressive because there's blood in the water with the Chiefs losing in the Super Bowl. So why not make a bit of a splashy move and kick them when they're down? The Rams, they were just in the divisional round, but I don't really get this one because they've got some really good young, cheap pass rushers in Jared Verse and Braden Fisk and Byron Young, but this is what they put, not me. Then the Commanders and the Bills. We've talked about the Bills. Let's talk about the Commanders because I have not done enough time discussing Washington as a potential destination for Garrett, and it makes a lot of sense. I was looking at their top 4 sack leaders. Dante Fowler Jr. was a 1-year rental. He's up in the age column. He is not going to be this team's number 1 pass rusher for the next 2 to 3 years. Frankie Louvu is an off-ball linebacker. He gave you some good pass rush production, but I don't think he's a consistent defensive end, kind of outside linebacker threat. Dorrance Armstrong, up in the age column, well over 30. Duron Payne, he unfortunately battled some injuries, but he's an interior guy, does not play the same position as Myles. So here's a trade idea that the Commanders could offer Cleveland. Garrett, of course, to DC, and then 2 firsts and a second. The reason why it's feeling like a little bit steep is one of those picks is 29th overall. We're talking the back end of round 1 and round 2. But if the Browns get similar offers from multiple teams, if 3 teams offer them their first this year, their first next year, and a day 2 draft pick, the question really becomes, which of these 3 teams is going to suck the most next year? Because we want to have 2 early preferred first-round draft picks in 2026 to get a star quarterback. And if we end up being very good, we need the other team we trade with to stink. And if the Bills call, the Commanders call, and say the Lions call, I think it's okay to bet on the Commanders being the worst of the 3. I know how far they just went this postseason, but you got Jaden Daniels, you've got the Lions with all their weapons, and then there's Josh Allen. If you had to pick one, gun to your head, to have the fewest wins in 2026, I think the Browns might pick a sophomore slump from the Commanders. Now, building off of that, one other takeaway that I really want to hit home here and drive to the core is both sides are very dug in. And from the very jump, when Garrett requested a trade, in my opening video about this, I talked about how this could get ugly because the Browns are adamant they're not trading him. And Garrett has been adamant he wants a trade. Someone's going to have to change their mind. And neither party looks like they are anywhere near some type of middle ground. Jeremy Fowler wrote this a few days ago. I've spoken to several teams that openly admit they will probably reach out to Cleveland with the expectation that the Browns will say no to any offer. Cleveland has no plans to budge on its stance that Garrett won't be moved. The sense I'm getting is that the Browns aren't even picking up the phone when anyone calls. And if you're Andrew Berry, you cannot wait until an August, July type or September trade, because if you trade Myles in August or September like Khalil Mack was to the Bears, and the 2025 season does not go well, you're likely getting fired. Unless you have some level of assurance from Haslam, like no matter what, we're sticking with you and you're going to get us out of this. We're not going to fire you even if things don't go well in 2025. Barry's going to get draft picks that he'll never see. So Barry's in a really tough spot here. Either you bend the knee and change your mind and trade Garrett before the draft and get some picks this year to help your 2025 roster, or you remain in this stare down and hope that Garrett changes his mind. But if he doesn't and push comes to shove, you have to trade him before the season starts. Otherwise, he's going to hold out. You're going to get 2026 and 2027 draft picks that the next GM will be using because you'll be gone if you have back-to-back 3-win seasons. So let me know what you think. Will Myles Garrett get traded? Give me a T for trade. Give me an S for stay. Scroll on down to the comment section. I want to hear from everyone down below what you think is going to be the final resolution when it comes to this Myles Garrett trade request. To wrap up the video, I've got producer Trace Moustakis with us today. Moose, which card do you want to pick? Moose says 7 of spades. I'm thinking Queen of Spades, but that's probably wrong. So I'm going to change it to 9 of clubs. 9 of spades. Oh, that sucks. Damn it. That's it. I will see you guys tomorrow.